I don't know. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and get started.
It is recording, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just making sure.
I will call to order the April 17 meeting of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And we'll begin with roll call. Starting with Mary Ann Banks. Natalie Drozda.
Here.
Andrew Grove. Patrick King.
Here. That's fine.
Thomas Langston. Amanda Ross.
Here.
Tom Sufchuk.
Here.
Mike Wallen.
Here.
And Pat West.
Present.
Okay. The first agenda item is meeting minutes, and as this is the first meeting of this board, there are no meeting minutes. Next up is citizen comments. We have nobody present. Do we have any
No
in the
attendees.
audience?
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to board orientation and onboarding, Assistant Municipal Manager and Planner Ian McMeans.
Thank you. So, hello, everyone. I'm your Assistant Municipal Manager, Ian McMeans. I've worked for the municipality for about 8 years now, lived here for about 12 with my wife and many kids. And so I've been going around to all of the new advisory boards to do a little sort of onboarding orientation. I know I sent you all a whole slew of information when you were appointed. So congratulations and thank you for being willing to dedicate your time to volunteer in this unpaid position, sometimes thankless job of serving in an advisory role to the commission. And it is really important, the work that gets done at the board level. The commission takes it into consideration when they make funding decisions for future projects and things like that. So I'm going to all the boards. The other boards did a little kind of introduction of everyone. Do you guys want to do an introduction? Are you happy? If you want to do that now, you can do it later, whichever is fine. Just kind of get to know everyone in the room.
I'll start. I'm Phil Lavolio. I'm your Facilities and Parks Coordinator. So I oversee maintenance, kind of entry budgeting, implementation of projects and plans across your many parks, whether it be small community, big main park, everything like that. And off that also have the tasks of facilities maintenance management through all municipal facilities, except over at Tennyson Rink where David Saff handled that area. So just welcome.
David Donnellen, Recreation Director, along with Phil. We are your staff liaisons to the board, so we'll handle secretarial type things, keeping the meeting organized, completing the minutes, things like that. What else was I gonna say? Shoot, lost my train of thought, but anyway, welcome. Look forward to working with you.
My name is Natalie Drozda. I've been a resident since 2016 recently, but I was a child here as well, came back. I'm a landscape architect. I've been licensed for about 10 years. And I volunteer doing invasive removal in the park sometimes with the Nature Conservancy.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying, looking forward to this.
I'm Mary Ann Banks. I grew up in Mount Lebanon, moved away for about 20 years, and then I moved back here. I'm a Penn State Master Gardener. Been a Master Gardener for about 8 years. And just recently, I've just have a strong interest in landscape and design and went through the FIPS program. But outside of those interests, I have a career in completely unrelated field, which is the dental industry. And I'm looking forward to working on this board.
Tom Sufchuk, I've been in Mount Lebanon about 25 years now with my family. Been active in the Mount Lebanon Nature Conservancy since around '05. Professionally, I do municipal finance and facilities planning and other stuff related to the glamorous world of water and wastewater for a municipal and civil and environmental engineering firm.
My name's Patrick West. I'm a fellow landscape architect. I've been practicing for about 37 years now. I'm a Mount Lebanon resident for the last 36 years, and over the course of my career, I've worked on numerous sports fields, parks, hospitals, schools, cemetery, you name it. So I'm looking forward to maybe helping share some knowledge if I have it.
I'm Amanda Rost. I just was thinking today, I've been in Mount Lebanon for 20 years this summer, so. I live here with my family with 4 kids. I came from the sports board side of things, from the previous boards. I have 4 kids that play all kinds of sports, and I currently help run the Flag Football and Lacrosse Association, so a lot of my time is spent doing that. And I was one of the people that did the field census study that we did recently that I'm sure we'll talk about at some point, where we figured out how the fields in Mount Lebanon are being used and what we need going forward. So I'm hoping to continue that work as a part of this board.
I'm Mike Wallen. I moved to Mount Lebanon in 1983. Been involved in scouting and volunteered at hospital and hospice and stuff. And I've twice been president of the Senior Men's Golf League, so that's my particular interest. But raised 3 kids in the area. One still lives here, another is in a group home in Upper St. Clair. But I just have an interest in, over the years to get on a board, to have some involvement, and I'm glad to have the opportunity. I do my own yard work. That's my only claim to fame among all you professionals.
Good evening, Tom Langston, grew up in Mount Lebanon. We have 4 children. I was involved with Amanda on the sports advisory, involved in a variety of things, the field study and a lot of the activities around maximizing existing resources and looking at how we can improve for the increase in activity in the community at all ages when it comes to all field sports and activities. So thank you for having me.
I'm Pat King, live in the Markham area. Lived here many years, moved away, came back. I'm also a self-proclaimed personal landscaper in my house. I currently serve on the Mount Lebanon Partnership Board, the EVC committee. I either played on all the fields and all these spaces growing up here, or my kids played on them. And so I've been to all of them. So I'm happy to be on the board and look forward to working with everybody.
Hi, my name is Brenna Crable. I am your school board liaison. So I have lived in Mount Lebanon for about 8 years. I have a strapping 5th grader who was also heavily involved in a lot of sports. So wrestling, football, we started with you in flag. Now he's at tackle. I started my journey as well on a sports board. So I started in youth wrestling and here we are. So I look forward to talking a lot about the field consensus and looking forward to collaborating with all of you.
Great. Thank you very much for coming. This is the first board that we've had a school liaison come to, so you have that distinction. And then we have Kathy from our IT department over there at the door. We have IT support for our meetings as well, so. I think we're good, yes. Thanks, Kathy. All right, so I know I sent out a lot of information, which when you look through it was probably like drinking from the fire hose. And it had a lot of legalese in it because anytime we have anything that gets reviewed by our legal counsel, you wind up with things that have a bunch of legalese in it. So I tried to make it a little more digestible and understandable. I'm not going to go through every nitty-gritty detail that was in that policies and procedures bylaws document, but I thought a high-level overview, and I'm pretty much giving this same presentation to all of the new advisory boards so everyone kind of understands where we are, why we did the realignment of boards and what we're hoping to achieve moving forward. For those of you that have served on a board previously, there are some slight differences and slight changes of how we're hoping to operate. Parks and sports people that have served on those boards in the past will see a lot of similarities with capital program recommendations and things like that, that we're hoping to expand out to some of the other boards. So as I go through everything, there'll be maybe some things that are more or less applicable to your board, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So, oops, I didn't change the title of this from the last slide I gave. So at any rate, ignore where it says financial management. This is Parks and Rec. But everything else on the slide is correct. So your commission liaison is Commissioner Grella from Ward 4. Staff liaisons, David Donnellan and Phil Avolio. And so why did we do the whole board realignment thing?
Sure.
Right. So a couple years ago, the commission started looking at all of the boards that we had between our mandatory statutory boards that we had to have by law, all the true advisory boards that we had established by ordinance over time, and then all the external boards that either commissioners or municipal staff sat on the, advisory councils of, attended meetings of, all that. And there was a lot. So we didn't have any control over the external boards. We didn't really have any control over the mandatory boards. So the commission started looking at that list of 10 true advisory boards. And when we benchmarked that against our neighboring communities, we found that we had a lot more true advisory boards than everybody else had. So the commission wanted to consolidate things and wanted to improve efficiency and expedite some conversations that were happening. So the commission settled on 5 true advisory boards because there are 5 commissioners. So the thinking was then one commissioner could be the liaison to each of the 5 advisory boards. And they really started from the ground up and said, okay, if we're going to have 5 boards, what are the 5 topic areas where we want input from our resident experts? Because we have a lot of very knowledgeable people that live in Mount Lebanon that have been very willing to share their expertise with us over time. And we're very thankful that that has continued, that people are still willing to share their knowledge with us and give advice to the municipality on making recommendations for programs, capital projects, things like that. So Parks and Recreation was one of those 5 areas, and that's how the Parks and Rec Board came to be. So the purpose of advisory boards is to serve in a truly advisory capacity to the commission. So when the commission makes decisions, they're taking input from the professional staff, the municipal employees who work under the municipal manager, the professional consultants that we have, our municipal engineer, our solicitor, any other consultants we have, as well as the advisory board. So those are kind of the main points of input into the commission when they go about making big budgetary capital decisions, things like that. And the advisory boards really serve the purpose of making recommendations on how to implement adopted plans, whether it's the comprehensive plan, the Parks Master Plan, main park site plan, climate action plan, anything like that is really where the niche for advisory boards. And we have this top-down model of policy direction. So the commission sets the policy overall, establishes goals, and approves the budget. Without the budget, we can't do anything. Advisory boards recommend prioritization of projects or programs to help achieve those goals that have been set by the commission. And then the commission directs staff on the implementation of whatever policies, programs, initiatives for things that get funded in the budget. So the staff is the one that actually does the implementation. The commission gives the direction mostly through what gets funded in the budget. And the role of advisory boards is to kind of recommend that prioritization of things. Okay. So the commissioner responsibilities, our commission liaison is not here with us tonight, but they serve in a liaison role to relay the priorities of the commission to the board and ensuring that the board is focused on commission supported initiatives, plans, and policies. One of the things that we ran into in the past with some of our advisory boards was that a board would get an idea and start to run with it and do a whole bunch of work and be really excited about it. And then they take it to the commission and the commission would say, yeah, thanks, but we're not interested in this right now. And then the board would get really frustrated that they spent all this time and work on putting together a report on something or recommending a policy, and the commission just kind of shut it down out of nowhere. And they kind of felt like they wasted their time. Sometimes people would resign from boards. We don't want that to happen. Your time is valuable. Our time is valuable. We want you to feel like you're doing things and working on projects that are in line with the goals of the commission. So part of the commission liaison's role is to ensure that the board kind of keeps their focus on things that are supported by the commission. I'll talk a little bit more about that later on as well. And then in each discussion session before the commission meetings, there's a standing agenda item for each commissioner to report on what their advisory boards are talking about. So if anything comes up that you need input from the full body of the commission on, there's space for some of that discussion to happen in the discussion sessions. Staff liaison responsibilities. So each board has 2 staff liaisons. Your 2 are here, David and Bill. Their primary functions are for meeting support, drafting agendas, keeping minutes, keeping attendance records, institutional knowledge, maintaining the SharePoint site for the board, document storage, retention, record keeping, and then onboarding and orientation of new board members. So I'm doing this now for you all. This is also kind of my warm handoff to them, that any new board members that come on in the future, they won't go through the whole presentation again, but this information will be available that they can then pass on to new board members to say, hey, here's this video of Ian's presentation, go back and watch it. Here's the PowerPoint. I'll share the PowerPoint with David and Phil. They can upload it onto your SharePoint site so they can have it in perpetuity. But just to kind of make sure we have a good understanding when new board members come on of what the roles and responsibilities are. So there are some limitations that the commission approved bylaws put on the new advisory boards. So advisory boards and their subcommittees do not have the authority to perform the following functions. First and foremost, direct activities of municipal employees. That's the municipal manager's job. So if there's something that you would like a municipal employee to do, you have to request the municipal manager to have an employee perform some function. So, that could be as simple as an email to the manager, but, as a board, you can't say, David, you need to go do this. It would have to be, we're gonna request Keith direct David to do this, so you don't have oversight over David or Phil. Expending municipal funds, the commission and the municipal manager are the only ones that are allowed to expend municipal funds, similarly entering into contracts on behalf of the municipality. So if there's a project or something and there's a consultant that you think you might want to have work on a certain project, you as a board can't contract with that consultant. The municipality would have to hold the contracts. You'd have to recommend to the manager and the commission that the municipality enter into a contract with that person. So the board can't do that. Performing any other functions conferred on any Commonwealth or municipal agency, and then host or sponsor events. So let me talk about that one for a minute. What the events thing means is that the commission wants boards, if they're going to participate in an event as a board, to have that be at municipal events with the approval of the municipal manager. So that does not mean you can't go to events. You as citizens of the municipality are welcome to attend any event you want to as a private citizen. But as a board, if you want to say, set up a table at an event and pass out information about municipal programs or something like that, that's like attending the event as the board. So that is limited to municipal events. So like if the board wanted to set up a table at a First Friday or something like that, you can do that. You just have to send an email to the municipal manager and say, hey, we'd like to have a table at a First Friday event to, do a survey, something like that, whatever. So that's okay as long as the municipal manager says it's okay. And then also any educational materials that might get distributed need to be coordinated with our public information office. We ran into a situation with a previous board where a board set up a table at an event and was handing out information that promoted a private company that did recycling. And as the municipality, we're not allowed to promote an individual private company to, make money for their business. So that was no bueno. And so, and we didn't find out about it till afterwards that they were like, hey, this, here's information about, recycling. And yeah, so at any rate, making sure that anything is coordinated with our public information office so that we're putting out a consistent message. And then, advisory boards can't independently host events. All events should be municipal events. So also, what does it mean with boards may assist with planning, staffing, event execution? So as an example, what was the Community Relations Board, now sort of the Civic Engagement Board, has a residence academy every year that they put on as an informational 8-week program for residents to learn about what the municipality does. So board members of the Civic Engagement Board can help with the planning, staffing, event execution of the Residence Academy. They can sit at the door, check people in. They could, buy cookies and water for the event. They could help plan out the program of the event, but it's not their event. It's a municipal event that the board is helping to plan, staff, and execute, but it's not the board's event, if that makes sense. Okay, so the overall structure of the new advisory boards, each board has 9 volunteer residents that are appointed by the commission. You will appoint a chair and vice chair. I'll talk a little bit more about their duties in a little bit. You can either choose to do that tonight at your first meeting or wait till next month if you want to wait to appoint whoever your chair and vice chair are going to be. There are liaison positions. So there's each board has a commission liaison, 2 staff liaisons, and the commission by resolution established 2 liaison positions for each board for representatives from Mount Lebanon School District. And the idea is that we are hoping to better integrate the school district with some of the conversations that are happening at the municipal level, because we know there are efficiencies and synergies that we can get working together. So having those positions available for school district liaisons, and we left that pretty much an open door that the school can choose to appoint whoever they want to those liaison positions, whether they be school board members, staff members, even people sort of secondarily associated with the schools, like a PTA member or something like that. So that's completely up to teachers, administrators, whoever the school district wants is fine by us. Just having them in the room as part of the conversation we think is valuable. That said, if anything comes up for a vote, only the 9 appointed members actually get to vote. So school liaisons, staff liaisons, commission liaisons don't get a vote on any voting matters. As of right now, the commission has not appointed any associate members, which are also non-voting members. For example, I know there's some people here that have been involved with the Nature Conservancy, but let's say that there wasn't anyone here involved with the Nature Conservancy. The commission said, I think the Nature Conservancy might have a good voice to be part of the Parks and Rec conversations. So they could designate the Mount Lebanon Nature Conservancy as a liaison group, and similar to the school liaisons, the Nature Conservancy could send someone to attend the meetings, take part in the discussions, but wouldn't be able to vote. But you all who have been appointed do get to vote. But the commission hasn't appointed anyone to those associate positions yet, but the potential is there for them to do that in the future. Additionally, as your board or if other boards want to, if there's sort of collaborative projects that people are working on, Andy, that you can appoint liaisons to attend other board meetings. So if, let's say there was conversations happening about, park trail design or something like that, you may want to invite a liaison from like the mobility board to come to your meeting where you're talking about that, something along those lines. So, so that's pretty much the overall structure. Responsibilities of appointed board members. Andy, there's a seat for you up here, actually. You have a name tag and everything.
Oh, man.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a class operation.
So, board member responsibilities, board members will be residents, but relocating within the municipality is not cause for removal. But if you move out of Mount Lebanon, you do have to resign your seat on the board. Meeting attendance, either virtual or in person, to count towards the quorum. Our preference is that if you attend virtually via Zoom, that your camera should be on, so you're actively participating in the meeting. What we don't want to have happen is like someone turns Zoom on their phone and then is driving and just kind of listening to the meetings, then you're not really like an active participant in the meeting. So, it really to count towards the quorum, like if you're virtual, your camera should be on, you should be kind of actively participating. That said, if you run into some technical issues and your camera doesn't work, like we understand. But, the ideal would be cameras on. And then the officer running the meeting should be in person. So whoever you decide is your chairperson, if that person has to attend virtually for that meeting, then the vice chair would run the meeting because it's just easier to run the meeting from being in the room, we've found. And then collaboration with liaisons. So commission and staff liaisons should have access to all board documents. We have the board SharePoint site that either you all have access to or will have access to very soon. Any working documents, any board documents, anything else just should be stored on that SharePoint site so that everybody has access to it. And the reason for that is really based in the Pennsylvania Right to Know law. So under state law, anyone can request documents from the municipality that are part of, municipal governance and what boards are working on as part of that. And so if you had documents stored on your personal computer and then, we went through a right to know process, potentially you could run into a situation where like a right to know officer could get access to like your Google Drive or something like that to look for documents. And we don't want that to happen. Your Google Drive is your personal stuff. We have a site for you to store things on. So use our storage site, and then you never have to worry about your personal computers being opened up to right to know officers. And then also just copy your commission and staff liaison on any like communications about board business. I'll say, incidental communications of like, hey, are you going to the meeting tonight? Can I get a ride with you? Something like that. That's incidental. That's fine. Like that doesn't matter. But something like, hey, are you going to vote to support this thing, or conversations like that? Anything related to actual board business, make sure they're copied on. Similarly with the right to know law, emails are subject to right to know. So internally, we have processes through our IT department that they can pull any of our municipal emails for any kind of right to know request. And if our staff liaisons are copied on any emails relating to board business, then you don't have to worry about your personal emails being opened up to right to know, because we'll already have all those. So just makes things easier. Yes.
If you're getting it to it later, I'll wait, but two questions related to the SharePoint. One is, are the files and folders from the Sports Advisory Board and the Parks Advisory Board being migrated over, or has that happened already?
That has happened already.
Okay,
There's still some parks trickling in from past file organization.
okay,
And these are just the documents that were generated during the transition period. Like it doesn't go back indefinitely or anything.
okay.
Yeah.
So if there are like historical documents or stuff that might be useful for the record or something.
Yeah, we can add
Okay.
if there's something you're looking for.
Another thing, it may be my intrinsic Luddite nature, but I couldn't get on, but maybe there's still a link to be sent out or something, or
The last email that I sent to everyone had the direct link to the SharePoint site.
we'll try again.
Okay, yeah, let me know if you have a problem.
Yes. And then in the bylaws document, there was just a little clause about if, a board member doesn't attend either 4 consecutive meetings or is absent 6 times in a 12-month period, they could potentially be put on notice for non-attendance, which could potentially lead to removal from the board, because the board chair would then notify the commission liaison and so on and so forth. So the board chair, the board members can't remove anyone from the board. The commission is the only one that can actually appoint or remove people from the board. But, obviously, if you have some kind of medical issue or something like that, you can let the board chair know about that, or let your staff liaison know, if you're going to be absent for a while. But yeah, so that's kind of how it was written. Okay, so core responsibilities of the advisory boards. Prioritizing and recommending comprehensive plan goals. So the comprehensive plan is kind of the overall plan for the municipality for the next decade. I'll talk a little more about that later. And then recommendations based on other adopted plans and policies for this board, that primarily would be the Parks Master Plan. And then capital project prioritization lists for those that have served on parks and sports boards in the past. You're pretty familiar with how those work. An overall work plan and an annual report. This is a new thing that we didn't do in the past. The annual report primarily is focused on what goals of the approved plans have been accomplished in the prior year. And that's to help me, because in addition to being the assistant municipal manager, I'm also the municipal planner. So every year I give the commission an update on what goals of the comp plan we've achieved. So having reports from each of the 5 advisory boards to be able to tie into the comp plan reports will be extremely helpful to me to make sure the commission gets the best possible information about all the good work that's been done by the boards throughout the year. So I talked about the elected officer positions. Typically, the board will reorganize either in April or May. I know this year is kind of unique because it's the very first year. So if you don't want to do your organization tonight, you can wait till next month. Basically, just need a majority of board members to elect one person as chair and one person as vice chair. The chairperson presides over the meeting, facilitates the meeting, coordinates with the staff liaisons on agendas, tracks meeting attendance, acts as a ex officio member of any subcommittees, and then ensures those annual reports and capital project lists get submitted to the planning office. Because the planning office is also the one that puts together the annual capital improvement plan. So all those reports go to me. And then the vice chair just performs the duties of the chairperson when the chair is not in attendance. So vice chair has it a little easier. So if you want to appoint a chair at tonight's meeting, you can. If you want to wait, that's up to you all. Some other general procedures, adherence to the Sunshine Act, that's the open records, or not just open records, that's right to know, but open meetings law. I have more slides on that later on. Robert's Rules of Order, standardized agendas, and standard deadlines for meetings. So one of the goals that the commission had with the whole new advisory board layout and structure is to increase and improve transparency. You know, as municipal government, we're always very interested in being transparent to the residents. So one of the things we're doing is having pretty much a standard structure for all of our meeting agendas. So for each advisory board, all the meeting agendas are going to look pretty much the same. You know, they'll all have a Zoom link so people can either attend virtually or watch later online. They'll have a pretty standard format as you go through, you know, the work that your board does. You may, you know, expand or contract some certain areas of the agenda, but generally speaking, the agendas will look similar. And then a standardized timeline as well. So the one date to keep in mind is 7 days prior to the board meeting, and that's 7 calendar days, not 7 business days. So a week in advance of the board meeting will be the RSVP deadline to let your staff liaisons know if you're available to attend the meeting. And if we don't have a quorum of the board, so if we don't have 5 or more board members that say they're able to attend at that point in time, then we'll cancel the meeting. And if we do have a quorum, then we'll be able to post the agenda online 6 days prior. And like I said, in the interest of transparency, we want to make sure that the agendas are getting online far enough in advance that if residents are interested in what's being talked about, they'll be able to see the agenda, know if there's something that they're interested in, and figure out if they're able to either come and attend the meeting in person, watch online, something like that. Just to kind of have that information out there for everyone to be able to see so that people know what's being talked about at the board level. And then the Friday before a meeting, if there's any information to be distributed, it'll probably be uploaded to your SharePoint site. Your staff liaisons will let you know that, hey, there's and it might be sooner than the Friday before, just kind of, you know, when things are available, they'll let you know, hey, there's stuff in the SharePoint drive you should review before the next meeting, so on and so forth. So I talked a little bit about, you know, the annual schedule, and really everything from a municipal standpoint is built around when we approve the budget. So our budget's a January through December calendar year budget, which is when the budget and the capital plan are approved by the commission. They hold budget hearings in November and everything kind of backs up from there. We have to send them the annual capital improvement program by August 1st of each year. That's in the administrative code that we have to do that. So backing up from that, you see, you know, the manager's recommended budget is worked on in September and October. The capital program has to be received August 1st. So that means that we have to, you know, get the capital plan, start working on that like May, June, July, so that the commission can get it by August. The comp plan progress report happens in July and August of each year. So that's how things kind of back up from there on the annual schedule. So I mentioned that annual report being submitted to the planning office. The good news is you don't have to do that right away. So my hope was that that could be like a March task each year. So every April, the commission may make new appointments to advisory boards when people term off. So March is kind of the end of the end of the advisory board year before those new appointments come on in April. So my thought was that, you know, in March, you could submit me that annual report of what was done in the prior year. So then that sets me up to, you know, start working on the capital program and start working on that comp plan progress report to be given in the summertime to the commission. So this will be something very familiar to people who have served on boards previously. Capital project prioritization list. This is one of the most important annual functions that the board will do. And that's kind of taking all the potential projects that exist and prioritizing them and ranking them, and then submitting those to the planning office, and then they get forwarded on to the commission, because the commission does weigh these priority lists heavily when they're considering what gets funded versus what doesn't get funded in an annual budget. So the one number to keep in mind is $100,000. So anything over $100,000 goes in the capital program. Anything under $100,000 goes in the operating budget And any kind of recurring expense also goes in the operating budget too. So you can rank things you see here, from the park sports list. Some things were in the operating budget, some things were in the capital program. But overall, this is one of the most important things that we get out of the boards each year. And then, each recommended project includes what plan goals it helps accomplish, whether they're goals from the comp plan, the parks master plan, any other approved plan, and then a description and justification for why this is a necessary project, and then estimated project costs as well. So this is one of the most important things that boards do, and probably one of the first things you'll do because it's coming right down the pike here in the next few months. Okay, so boards also have the ability to create subcommittees. So there's 9 board members, but if there's a specific project or program or something that, a small group is interested in, or if you just want to start splitting up and dividing work amongst different people, you can create subcommittees to work on specific items. So either the commission or a board can create a subcommittee. If you create a subcommittee, it expires annually, which is at the reorg meeting each year, but you can just renew it for the following year. If you have, so if you have a subcommittee on, I don't know what, I don't have a good example, but if you have a subcommittee on something and then want to keep that work going the following year, just, when you vote on your chair, vice chair, vote to, renew the subcommittee for another year. And we put that in there really to kind of just make sure that things aren't continuing to exist in perpetuity, that aren't really doing anything. We want to make sure that, on an annual basis, the boards are thinking about the work that's being done, saying, is this something that's necessary and needed? Okay, we'll continue this on. Or is this something that's kind of run its course? Because like I said at the beginning, we don't want to waste your time. Your time is valuable. So we want to make sure that you're focused on the most important items. Subcommittees can contain both appointed and associate members. The one thing I will mention with subcommittees is that, the municipal manager has appointed 2 staff liaisons to come to the board meetings. But if you want a staff liaison to come to a subcommittee meeting, you have to request the municipal manager to have them attend. So they're not required to attend subcommittee meetings. And that can be as simple as a chair. Yeah, that can be as simple as a chairperson sending an email to the municipal manager. But, that's, just want to be clear about that they're not expected to attend all your subcommittee meetings if you wind up with a whole bunch of them. So if there are subcommittees, there's kind of a standing place on the agenda for subcommittees to give reports to the board. All documents, keep them in the same SharePoint site, same reason as before. The other advantage I'll say about subcommittees is that since subcommittees don't have a quorum of the board, so it's less than 5 people, you don't have to have a advertised public meeting for the subcommittee to meet. So if you had 3 people working on something, you could meet whenever you wanted to. It wouldn't have to be, a public meeting that was advertised, that was, broadcast live on Zoom for the general public. You can meet in private as a subcommittee to kind of hash some things out at that level. And then obviously if there's anything that, gets voted on in the end, that comes to the board and the whole board votes on it at a public meeting, but subcommittee work can be done kind of offline. And then ad hoc committees, so that's a separate carve out in our administrative code. The commission can create ad hoc committees to study specific matters. So as an example, maybe about 10 years ago, the commission had an ad hoc committee to study our home rule charter. And they said, we're going to get a group of residents together to look at all the things in our home rule charter and make recommendations if anything needs changed. So I think that group may have had some people from boards, some people from the commission, some people from staff, as well as some just general residents. Ad hoc committees created by the commission, they are in existence for a year. They can also contain non-residents if there's a specific matter that's being studied. And they can either be standalone bodies or fall under the oversight of an advisory board. So if there was something that the commission wanted kind of specifically studied by an ad hoc committee, they could kind of say, okay, we're making this committee, but this committee has to report to this board. And then run the recommendations through this board before it comes to the commission to kind of give it an extra level of oversight. So the commission could create an ad hoc committee to study something and then nest it under the Parks and Rec board if they so chose to. All right. General Robert's Rules of Parliamentary Procedure. this is an advisory board. This isn't a formal, deliberative body. It's not the US Congress. So I know there's a lot of strange, weird, complicated rules with Robert's rules. But at this level, really all you need to worry about is motions and seconds and voting. So, if there's something that comes up formally, probably the thing you'll vote the most on is meeting minutes. But other than that, like the lists for capital projects, things like that should be made by motion. You should approve those by motion. So anyone other than the chair can make a motion. Anyone except the person who made the motion can second it. So the chair is allowed to second a motion. If a motion doesn't get a second, there's no discussion, there's no vote, it just dies. If it gets a second, then there's discussion. The chairperson presides over the discussion, so calls on people, things like that. And then basically when the discussion concludes, the chairperson calls for a vote. And then the vote can either be done verbally, all in favor say aye, any opposed nay. If it sounds like it's close, you can do a roll call vote where you call each person around the room, say, how do you vote, so that we have a good, accurate record of who voted which way for the minutes, because our meeting minutes are the formal and official record of what happened in the meeting. We have the video of the meetings, but the minutes are the official record of what happens in a meeting. And actually, on that note about meeting minutes, I should say, because the board approves meeting minutes at the subsequent meeting to when it happened, we don't publish meeting minutes on the website until they're approved by the board, because minutes do not have to be an exact verbatim copy of what was said at the meeting. Minutes can be a summary of what was said. But sometimes when you're talking in an open meeting, you might say something and it might not be phrased exactly how you meant it to sound. So it's good to look over the minutes and just make sure, like, okay, they accurately captured the spirit of what I was trying to say here and didn't, misquote me or misinterpret what I was saying. So the minutes do have a 1 month delay to get posted on the website. But if people are interested in knowing what happened at a meeting, the meeting videos are up within a day or two of the meeting happening. So those are available, but they're not the official record. And then if there's amendments to the motion, basically amendments follow the same procedure. Someone has to move to amend the original motion, needs a second. There's discussion of the amendment, then there's a vote. If the amendment passes, then it goes back to discussion of the amended motion and then on to a vote. If the amendment fails, it goes back to discussion of the original motion, then on to a vote. Okay. All right. We talked about the SharePoint site a little bit. So the staff liaisons are responsible for maintaining the SharePoint site, and any working documents get stored there. So before a meeting, agendas, any pre-meeting information will be uploaded there. And board members will be responsible for reviewing the information prior to the meeting. We're all adults here. Many of us have children. Many of us have several children, myself included. So, I like to say that I have children at home and I don't want to treat people at work like children. I want to treat people at work like adults. So we can, be responsible for reviewing things before a meeting. And then after a meeting, the staff liaisons will upload things to Laserfish, which is our internal document storage, as well as sending them to IT for posting on the website. Okay, so I talked about the comprehensive plan. One of the really unique and cool things we did with our comprehensive plan, which just got adopted in January this year, was we structured the comp plan to align with the 5 new advisory boards. So the 5 major sections of the comprehensive plan are basically the 5 new advisory boards that were created. And to my knowledge, we're the only community in Pennsylvania that's ever done something like this, where we have aligned our advisory boards with our comp plan recommendations, so that the recommendations in the comp plan kind of form the initial work plan for the new advisory boards. So this is a really cool thing, an innovative thing that we've done here in Mount Lebanon, and I'm really excited to see how it comes about. So the 5 new advisory boards line up with the sections of the comp plan. So the comp plan goals and objectives are one of the major inputs into directing the work of advisory boards, as well as any other adopted plans or policies adopted by the commission. Or sometimes the commission will have a goal setting retreat every couple of years, and they'll say, these are our major goals that we want to work on. So if any of those fall under the purview of an advisory board, they may seek advice and input from the advisory board on how to execute on those goals. But really, the overall vision here is to have the established goals that the commission has approved through these adopted plans be the guiding lights for these 5 new advisory boards. So the comp plan is our 10-year plan of goals and objectives. Some things in the comp plan stretch beyond 10 years. The function of the boards is to help us prioritize and recommend projects for implementation because it is a 10-year plan. It's not a 1-year plan. It's not a 5-year plan. Everything in the comp plan is going to happen in 2024 or even 2027. So we fully realize that it is a decade-long journey, and some things may change over time. In the last 2013 comp plan, there was recommendations about reducing the tonnage of solid waste and increasing the tonnage of recycling. And then halfway through that life of that comp plan, there was changes to what our waste hauler would accept in recycling, which they took glass out at that point in time, which was the heaviest item. So then it's like, okay, well, the spirit of this goal was to increase recycling, but from a pure numbers standpoint, it's going to go down because you took out like 25% of the load and something that was beyond our control. So, so sometimes those goals are adaptive. It's a living document and will change over time. But generally speaking, it spells out kind of the broad goals of where the municipality wants to go over the next decade. And then I mentioned the annual report that gets submitted. So tracking and reporting on progress towards meeting those planned goals is a very important aspect as well. So let's say you have your own idea that doesn't fall under any of the approved comp plan, Parks Master Plan, any other approved commission goal or priority, because that may happen at some point in time. So the first thing you should look at is, does this idea further any goal or recommendation, even in a tertiary way, of an existing plan? And if you can tie it in some way to an existing goal, then you're in good shape. You can kind of continue on with it. If you can't, if it's something truly, off board, then you should have a discussion with your commission liaison, your staff liaisons. Is it something that's feasible for a local government to do? Because while Mount Lebanon is a fairly large municipality, we have 150 full-time employees, but that's including fire, police, public works. Excuse me. So administratively, our administrative staff is relatively small. We're not the size of the city of Pittsburgh. We're not the size of the state of Pennsylvania. So there are things that may not be feasible for a local government to do. So asking the question of, is it something that's feasible for us to do at the local government level, is kind of an important question of whether or not to kind of pursue an idea that's not in an adopted plan. And then if it is something that's deemed as feasible, during a meeting, you'd make a motion to request direction from the commission. And then the commission liaison would take this idea to the commission and probably in a discussion session and say, hey, my board wants to pursue this thing. It's not in any approved plan. What does the full commission think? And then the commission will give direction, either say yay or nay. The commission will weigh it against kind of, thinking about all the other goals and priorities they have across different, realms, capacities, all the different programs that are going on in the municipality, and give direction if the commission wants the board to pursue it or not. And then once the commission gives direction, the liaison will come back and tell you, hey, the commission said, yes, we can go ahead with this. We'll move forward with working on it. Or no, the commission wants to focus on something else at this time. And really, this is kind of getting back to what I talked about earlier, that idea of we don't want boards to put a whole bunch of energy and work into something and then get shot down at the end. We want everything to be aligned with the goals of the commission to make sure that you're not spinning your tires and wasting a bunch of time and energy for something that's not gonna, get pushed all the way through at the commission level. So it may take a little more time initially to kind of get things rolling, just to kind of that double check with the commission to make sure it's okay to pursue. But in the end, it's better to start a little slower than spend a whole bunch of time and energy, put together a 25-page report, and then have the commission say, yeah, thanks, but no thanks, we're not interested. So, because then everyone will be frustrated and you'll feel like you wasted a bunch of time. And like we said, your time is valuable. All right, so in the comprehensive plan, some of the major items listed out for Parks and Recreation, implementing an active transportation plan. So the municipality has set aside some funding to do an active transportation plan this year. And the Parks and Rec aspect of that, a lot of that's probably going to focus on, the general street sidewalk network, but also the idea that our parks and green spaces serve as connectors between neighborhoods too. So how are people using our parks and green spaces for, either outdoor recreation or just traversing them to get between neighborhoods and take shortcuts through them, because people do that all the time, especially to get to the high school, cutting through Main Park, things like that. A unified signage plan, I know that's underway already. A trail amenities plan, diversifying program offerings, that was also referenced in the Parks Master Plan. That's kind of a general one, but I know David and his staff continually look at the programs and did a pretty extensive survey last year on satisfaction rates with different recreation programs, things like that. Evaluating efficiency of field and court usage. I know Amanda headed up that study, so continuing that work on. Considering any revisions to field and facility scheduling. I think that was kind of an offshoot of the field and court usage study as well. Implementing next steps to expand recreation opportunities, whether that be consideration of expansion of the existing recreation center facility, building a new rec facility somewhere else, or just looking at the assets that we have and seeing if there's better ways to maintain or upgrade those. And then upgrade facilities with the accordance with the Parks Master Plan as well. We are currently working on a overall site plan for Main Park as well that's underway, and part of that site plan is looking at the existing recreation center facility and seeing if there's upgrades and enhancements that can be made to that. So that's another thing that is currently underway. Our consultants have done a couple presentations for the commission already, but it's still ongoing. Some other recommendations: acquiring vacant parcels surrounding the parks to expand the footprint of the parks. That's something that could be looked at in the future. Improving stormwater management in parks. We have a riparian buffer zone in Bird Park, as well as some other parks around that have water courses that go through them. Field use efficiency, we've talked about that. Working with allied organizations, whether that be sports organizations or anyone else, on implementation. Trail development plans and a woodland stewardship plan, which I know the woodland plan is also kind of underway as well. We have a consultant that's been working on that report because that was something recommended in the Parks Master Plan. And then the Parks Master Plan itself was a standalone document that had like 180 recommendations across all the parks, which we've actually been pretty aggressive in the 2 years since we approved that in tackling a lot of those recommendations in the Parks Master Plan as well. So that's a lot of stuff, but where to start? So the active transportation plan is happening this year. The park signage plan, I think we have an RFP either just published or going out soon.
Due back on the 30th.
Okay, so we have an RFP out for to get signage in the parks, and those have already been designed. So it's really the RFP is for actual construction and installation of those signs. The field usage study that Amanda gave a great report on to the commission, which is underway, and she mentioned continuing that on. And then the Main Park site plan and rec center architectural study is a ongoing initiative as well that I'm sure you'll hear more about in the coming months. And then Main Park next steps, accessibility upgrades in the recreation center. That's one of the big things that we're looking to tackle with the architectural study is how do we make the second floor more accessible, primarily with an elevator, but then also the commission had expressed some interest in potentially, not just doing an elevator, but maybe an addition on the front of the building that could house some additional, community room space or something like that that could be used for some other future recreation opportunities. And then the other big project coming our way soon is replacement of the turf at the turf fields, because those are nearing the end of their useful life. So we're fully aware that those are very highly used facilities that we have across all age levels. And that's a big capital cost of something that's going to need done, but definitely something to keep in the back of your head of a capital project that is nearing implementation in the near future. I don't know exactly how many years, but it's coming soon.
Is
Yes.
the ice rink equipment, not to bring up David's favorite topic, but is that on that list as well in terms of future projects? I know that that was a big thing you'd spent a lot of time on in the past.
Yeah, I mean, at the time of the Parks Master Plan, we didn't know that, but yeah, that's by necessity a huge priority for us. We're going to need to do a full replacement of our chiller system for the rink. So we're working on that now, actually.
Yes, so that will most likely fall under that, like when you put your capital list together, considering the ice rink equipment as well, because Yeah, that is a tremendous facility that we have. It's one of the few municipal ice rinks, indoor ice rinks that exist. And we're very proud of that facility. We put a lot of money into that facility just a few years ago to redo all the subsurface stuff. So we don't want that investment to go to waste. I will say the rec center architectural study piece, we are not touching the ice rink half of the building. Other than maybe there was some thought about some additional storage, but like the lobby space, the bathrooms, but like the rink itself was kind of a, you know, we're gonna leave this alone because we just put a bunch of money into it. That architectural study was mostly focused on kind of the lobbies, the bathrooms, and then the upper floor connectivity. Okay. And finally, just a few items on the Right to Know Law and Sunshine Act. You know, with the Right to Know Law, any documents related to public entity business can be requested by any citizen. That includes emails and text messages. So the key point is, you know, don't put anything in writing that you wouldn't say out loud at a public meeting. But like I said, incidental communications of, you know, hey, are you going to the meeting tonight? Not, you know, those wouldn't be given over as part of a right to know request, but any formal documents, any discussion of board business, things like that. The Sunshine Act, any meetings with a quorum must be open to the public, and any deliberations or decisions must occur at a advertised public meeting. So all the board meetings for this year have been advertised, and then all public meetings have to have a public comment section as well. Under the Right to Know Law, like I said, email is not exempt. If you have any questions, we have a lot of information about Right to Know stuff on our municipal website. And under the Sunshine Act, if you have questions about the Sunshine Act, you can contact our municipal solicitor. So it applies anytime there's a quorum present. So it does not apply to subcommittee meetings. You shouldn't deliberate on things through group email. Do that in person. And then any official actions have to be done at a public meeting. You are allowed to have executive sessions kind of outside the public meeting, but get advice from the solicitor if you plan to do that, because you do have to announce at a public meeting what the exec session was about. So if it was, you know, one of the recommendations was about like considering acquisition of property near municipal parks, if it's tax delinquent or something. You know, if you're gonna recommend the municipality purchase property, you may wanna get some advice from the solicitor on how to do that. So you may wanna have an exec session on that. But then at your next public meeting, you have to say, oh, the board held an exec session about purchasing property. Then that could lead to a whole bunch of other questions. So I'd say just kind of, you know, be careful with the exec session stuff. If you have any questions, the best thing to do is just contact the solicitor first. That contact should probably come from whoever the board chair is or the staff liaisons, because we all talk to the solicitor quite often because there's a variety of legal issues we all face every day. So that is pretty much all I have as far as the onboarding, but if anybody has any questions, I am happy to answer them. And I'll share this PowerPoint with David and Phil so they can put it on their your SharePoint site as well.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
On the Sunshine Act, it could be where people might want to meet in groups of 4, 3 or 4, even under 5, to not violate the Sunshine Act. Is that a common occurrence? Do people do that a lot? Is that encouraged? Is it discouraged? You have these little side meetings outside of the public in groups of 3 or 4. Is that allowed?
It is allowed, yes. So you can have because 5, there's 9 board members, so a majority 5 is a quorum. So anything that doesn't have a quorum, you can do at a non-public meeting. I would recommend, if you're gonna do that, to set up a subcommittee, so it's not just like 4 people saying, hey, we're gonna all do this thing, like, you know, actually give yourself some purpose, something to specifically work on and talk about. You know, not just like, hey, how are we gonna, you know, let's all pick someone to be board chair and try and convince one other person, like, you know, have a like specific project you're working on. The company's role. Yeah, exactly. The person that has to run the meetings and call in people. But yeah, I'd say if you have a specific project you're working on or something, then yeah, that would be a good use of that. Because everybody's time is valuable, you know.
The field census study was done that way. There were 4 of us that were like a subcommittee of the sports advisory board that did that project and met on our own. And then we would come back and brief the whole group as to our progress, but that would have been impossible to do with 9 people to put at one time. You can't do a project like that with that much input.
Well, thank you all for your willingness to serve on our advisory boards. We're very excited with this transition to the new format. We're very hopeful that, it helps improve the efficiencies of what we do as a local government, because at the end of the day, we're all here to make Mount Lebanon a great place to live, to work, to recreate and spend time in. So, I live here, my kids use the parks, the facilities, all that stuff. I use them too. So, we want Mount Lebanon to be the great place that we all say it is, and to continue to be that in the future. So we're very appreciative for your time, for your willingness to participate in this very important facet of what we do as a local government. So thank you all. And as I said at the beginning, I am your assistant municipal manager. So if you have any questions, not just about board stuff, but about anything else, feel free to reach out and get in touch with me.
Thank
With
you.
that, I
Ian.
will hand it off to David and Phil, and you guys can
All
take
right,
it from here.
we'll continue. Thanks a lot, Ian.
Yes, thank you all.
Next up on our agenda is chairperson's report. So obviously we won't have that. Your commission liaison, Commissioner Grella, is not here this evening, so there will not be a commission liaison report. Next is staff liaison report. I'll just start by briefly saying that recreation is in a extremely busy time of the year. We're preparing our spring and summer programs, getting our tennis and swim centers ready. Golf course is picking up. So we've been doing a lot of hiring. Our seasonal program manager, Pat Cannon, who has been with the municipality for 24 years, will be retiring next month. So we've interviewed and are hiring a replacement for Pat. We've also recently hired a tennis center manager who will be starting on Monday, full-time tennis center manager. And then that's in addition to our normal summer seasonal staff hiring. So on the topic of tennis, there's been some very major changes to tennis this year. Indoor tennis will end their operations at the end of this month after 57 years of running indoor tennis in Mount Lebanon. So the rec department will be taking on year-round tennis operations here effective May 1. Just so it's clear, it's a very cooperative transition. Indoor just reached a point where I was with the growth in tennis and difficulty in finding staff and having only a volunteer board, it's just time to turn that over and benefit from full-time employees. So we're looking forward to running that and taking on tennis here very shortly. And with that, I'll turn it over to Phil.
Just first and foremost, if you guys use my email, you see something, just email me. I work best like that. So I'm talking parks wide, you come across something, whatever, just anything you see, just shoot me an email over, okay? Hey, trash can knocked over, anything you can think of. I think I've seen, but I don't think I've been here that long yet, so I'm sure there's more to see. I'll provide this each time. It's kind of helpful for me, just with how I operate and move throughout the day. We can amend this as to capture, what the group's looking to see. So there are, just as David said, there's many normal routine tasks that Public Works covers outside of what you'll see on here. We have one person at least through every single park every day. So just be aware of that as you see things. It may be a one-off stance where if you go there the next day, that condition, should have been picked up on, repaired, reported, or is very close to being rectified. Over on the administrative end, couple things that we've been going through, transitioning from the parks end over here. We have jumped on board with Okios Ecology, and what they're doing for us is a forest and invasives management plan. So they've gone through our 3 staple parks in terms of use, trails, not popularity, because we all have our small parks we like too. But Bird, Rob Hollow, Twin Hills. So this firm has gone through, identified things like forest canopy, density, invasive levels. So we've gone through couple different sessions with him. Been over a year-long process with this vendor. He's very engaged, great guy to work with. So this final piece, when it refers to this, is the numbers piece. How much does it cost? How many years are we talking? So this piece is being reviewed right now. The next time you'll hear this or see this will be on a commission, either discussion session. Yeah, I think it'll be on discussion. But basically, the company is getting ready to tell us across each park, what our main problems are, his view on how to tackle them, and what financially that looks like, because we are finding out, and everyone here that volunteers in there knows that it is not a one-time thing to pull all this stuff out. It's not a one-time thing to get things growing again. So this is nearing the end of its phase, which will only start the new phase, and it may become an adopted plan by the commission moving forward that will help budgeting mostly.
Little question on
Yes,
that. It looks like, for the schedule, this board's input on the CIP needs to occur in May, June at the latest, maybe.
Yep.
What's the time frame of the Oikos report being available to us? So we have a sense of what the dollar amounts are as we go about prioritizing.
So SharePoint, we'll
Is it
see
on
when
there? If
when
it's
you
on
get in
there, I
there.
apologize.
Not yet, not the financial piece of it. Rudy and I are reviewing that with a consultant very shortly, actually tomorrow afternoon, maybe. So we may see that closer, but all that background information on how we got to where we are throughout the park system will be on SharePoint. I'm still migrating the many things in there, so you will see it in there.
Thank you.
Yep, main park rec center plan, Ian touched on that. There were some initial concepts laid out. Commission thought they were a little heavy on the parking in terms of design layout. So those went back to the firm, and Ian's waiting to hear back from them on the second take on that. In front of you, I laid out a couple packets. You're free to take it if you want. Peruse through it there. That is the RFQ for Parks and Athletics signage ID. So what this is a very long process of the Sports and Parks Board saying, can we get some signs in front of our parks and fields? So we enlisted Colano Design, also enlisted helps of various Parks Board, Conservancy, softball, baseball, recreation, for site visits for locations. Not so much the styles and everything like that. We did seek a little bit of input on that. But just as Amanda said, if you get, big, large group on what something should look like, you'll come up with all sorts of designs and everything. So right now, this packet that your staff has made has gone out to 5 firms. We chose some vets driving around other communities. We've seen their work. And also just, at the suggestion of other municipalities as well. So those are due April 30th. We have some money right now to begin that installation or fabrication. Public Works will install them. We put street signs in all over the place. We can put some signs in the ground at the parks and fields. So we'll take care of the installation. Based on what those costs look like, we'll determine how many we get done this year. Then you'll see how that'll work into budget for 25. We'll have a nice service level in there. Here's what it costs to bang out all these parks all at once. Or if you want to a la carte it, we've kind of split it up for those options. So you're free to take that if you want. Those were copies for vendors to come pick up, but it is 2024 and they all find this stuff on our website, download it, print it out. So those are yours if anyone would like them. Over at in the parks end of things, over at Church Place, sticking with the master plan theme, we kind of did a quick overhaul, of improvement of Church Place Park. Crossed a bunch of boxes off in the master plan, kind of as a staple little pilot program. These are kind of our thoughts, staff, myself on the different things that we'd like to see across our systems. Church Place used to have a wood fall zone, the mulch chips everywhere. We would rut the entire park just putting the mulch chips in for everybody. So we went to a playground grass surface that's in there, has a 20-year warranty. We no longer have to drive dump trucks through the soft ground to just put mulch down and then literally fix our way back out of the park. Just wasn't making sense anymore. Along with that, we've extended sidewalks to meet up with the surface. That's something that wasn't there before, improving accessibility as much as we can. Old split rail fence looked pretty bad, leader, and, everyone started putting shims in the thing, so we redid that similar to a standard that you've seen throughout Berg. So another master plan thing was to come up with design standards. Our carpenter, our guys do this much more effectively than outsourcing it, or getting any type of like commercial thing in there. It's called Mount Lebanon, right? So we don't have a fence that goes straight anywhere. So, our carpenter takes a lot of pride in that, and we'll continue with that system through there. Added a nice charcoal grilling space for them. Mushroom North seeded our way out for the last time, which is good. Over at Main Park, a couple repairs coming up, nothing of note, nothing safety related, wear and tear, faded playground panels. This is the usual. Restrooms, something you'll see that's new is Main Park and concession stand. We did both of them in a grippy epoxy, kind of powder blue finish over the fall. We had space heaters hung with wires to get the temperatures that the contractor wanted, but fire department okayed it and we didn't burn anything down, so we got it done. Those look very well. They were well received so far. We've just opened Main Park 2 weeks ago, just opened the concession building this past week, kind of just in time for a middle school softball and all the organizations to kick off down there. Main Park also received all new toilet fixtures, paper towel, soap, mirrors, finally, the common things that we want to see. So that kind of standard staple is what we will expect to see across, park restrooms, facilities. Just kind of dark and gloomy looking in the Main Park ones, if you can remember yourself in there at any point. Very different. Stop by, take a look around. Might be a waiting line, probably not. Over at Country Club doing some basketball rims, probably same thing over at Meadowcroft. We didn't get funding for that third phase project in there this year. It doesn't mean we can't give it some love with operating dollars, and get the basketball end looking a little bit better. So we'll be working there. Over with invasives, started on some poison hemlock clusters that are easy to identify right now. Mainly along the Public Works to Rob Hollow swale along Cedar. They could be at the bottom of the swale, and I swear they were as tall as Cedar by July. So we're working towards that end. Also following up on some Tree of Heaven that have our lovely lanternfly. We made an effort to target as many of those as we could in the fall, which is when you want to treat those suckers. But what comes with that is that wood is very brittle when that tree ends up going dormant or dies. So they've all been mapped from the treatments we did last fall. My job now is to go back through, make sure that we killed them and get them on the ground safe. It's one that can snap off in any of these crazy storms we've had, instantly once the wood dies out. So we'll be going back through as well as marking non-successful areas for repeat treatments this year. So we do some invasive work in-house. We also do some contractually through Hike and Lob, other vendors when we go out to look for quotes for that work, just so you know. And I'll say all this stuff again, so I don't feel like you need to know it. Over at the field end, waiting on soil test results for all of our fields. What you'll see the municipality responsible for is Dixon Field, Middlefield, Seymour, Bradenton. Out of those fields, there's different maintenance at each one. Just because it's turfed doesn't mean that we walk away from it. Actually requires a good bit of maintenance. It's easier to schedule and maintain that one than native soil fields. So from those reports, we'll finalize our FERT program, usually a 4-cycle program through all the fields. Don't use any pesticides, anything like that. We did use the composted chicken manure one year, and my wife didn't let me in the house for like a week. So we might go back to that, but I'm allowed in right now, so I'm gonna keep it that way. Over at Dixon Field, we maintain grooming periodically, set initial grades for the year to make sure that field's running off the way it should. It's one big sheet flow from shortstop area down to Cedar Boulevard. So tough to manage. There's always material displacement. So you'll see us it's just the nature of it. You have a giant thing that you want flat that's full of, soils, you're going to be working on it. So that's something that we do as well. Over at the turf field, had a phone call with Shaw, and Shaw was the original manufacturer installer of that field in 2015, July, I think that was punched up. That vendor, our warranty is up on the turf. They continue to come out, make repairs walk it seasonally with us, and we don't see an invoice for that. So it's been a good relationship with them. Usually when the grass surface, looking surface meets up with your athletic lines, your marking lines, that's where you're gonna see the normal tears. That's nothing that shows lack of maintenance or anything like that. That's where the majority of our repairs have been, which is good. And along with that, we do an annual GMAX rating to make sure that we have good impact attenuation at sliding zones, corners, goal mouths, midfields, everywhere where you see those collisions. So we'll continue to work with them, and they're due out this week as well. Our crew does a grooming program on that. I have that mapped out based on David's play hours. It's not perfect, but we stay ahead of it. Been doing pretty good. Aside from it being snow covered or active rain, that sucker is able to be groomed, at will with our crew schedule. So, over at the concession stand, just today, we started replacing the service windows. That's the 2 roll-up doors down there. Baseball, softball, any one organization that has used it knows that those things were dead in the water. They're very hard to push up. They wouldn't lock well, everything like that. Is that more flooding?
No, it's a thunderstorm.
Sorry about that. So the contractor got them both roughed in today. They'll be finished up tomorrow. We're switching from manual to electric openers. They have limits, just like a garage door in your house. Couple more bucks, but believe it or not, the useful service life of the door itself is increased because you're no longer relying on different users that think they cranked it the whole way and then strip the gear and then, then it doesn't go up right. So the operator way was the way to go. Our electrician fed power in, all that good stuff. Over at Dixon and Middle, we did have a budget request from last year that was funded to upgrade our safety or our spectator seating at Middle Dixon, and eventually over at Seymour. What that means, our insurance agent is just year after year harping on us. Once you go above 4 rows of seating, you need fall protection, you need kick plate protection, for all those little ones that won't watch the game, no matter how hard you try, and they're running up and down the bleachers. So we have new seating coming in. I kicked around different layouts and ideas with baseball, softball, the key users that I know are there. We've got some good feedback on, don't waste money on that. I never see it full. Do this, do that. So that kind of back and forth is appreciated. So we'll take delivery of them tomorrow. So you'll see new side rails, sticking with park master plan themes, have added ADA seating, which is a cutout in the front row. Hopefully we can, help more people out that way. Also, some of the bleachers will have middle aisle row handbars, for anyone that needs a little bit more assistance getting into that seating to watch the game. So those are improvements that, we've made over there. They're no longer, you will see 4 sets of somewhat pushed together bleachers that you might have, pinched your rear end on in the middle. We went with a continuous segment, 30 foot in some areas. Still got good
Same
numbers.
location as they currently are.
Same location. Sticking with less quantity in center field at Dixon,
Right.
left and right field on Dixon. Middle is gonna stay where it's at for now. Reason being, right now, there's nowhere to go. In the future, when we look at new designs of turf replacement incorporated with other things that's in Ian's wheelhouse, maybe we'll see some seating along Cedar or something like that. The older units, they're not all in terrible shape. We're going to store them because as large as they are, the footprint for storing them is next to nothing. So we're gonna hang on to them. There's nothing wrong with them. They're aluminum. We're gonna see if there's a future need for them. But passing on a bleacher that is not up to code and fall zone onto other places isn't really, looked upon either. But we did look at retrofitting these bleachers, which would mean we send pictures, dimensions to a company. They build the steel sides and send them up. They're almost more than if you bought the brand new units. And that's at a competitively bid state contract price. So that's it over there. But like I said, if you guys see stuff, just email me. You got my email from David on there. The more eyes, the better. We're in the parks every day. We don't see everything. Nothing happens at one point overnight and then lasts all day. So anything you guys see, just shoot it over. I don't care if you're sitting in the stands, teeing off, whatever you're doing, walking the trails. That's how we get our best info about trees that have fallen in a storm blocking a path. We can get our guys out as quickly as possible to open them back up. So what you guys do helps me tremendously, so. But we'll stick with this format if everyone's cool with that. We can always amend it. We're new. That's it.
Thank you, Phil. Item number 7 is subcommittee reports, which there are none. Similarly, number 8, there is no old business. So we're moving on to new business. The first item is election of officers. As Ian indicated, you don't have to do that tonight. We could do it next meeting if you like, but you could certainly do it tonight too, so.
All here, it probably makes sense to do it.
Okay. So, let's go ahead and do that then. So are there, any motions to nominate someone for board chair? No nominations?
Would it be better to nominate people for the position and then determine who would fill the role? Or self-nominate, how would you?
I mean, normally what you do is call for nominations, it could be one or more, and then you call for a vote on those individuals one at a time. That's typically how we would do it, but does anyone want to do it?
Maintaining my friendship with Amanda, I thought she did an exceptional job with
You were gonna throw me in
the
a row.
recreation, but I would say for consideration. From a proven track record, I would recommend her for consideration if she would accept it.
So Tom has moved to nominate Amanda for chair. Are there other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor of Amanda?
You may be the nay, right?
Ross, first
You can nominate me, but I have an order of business right after. Is there any way to change the time of this meeting? 6 o'clock is the worst time.
Yeah, there's not.
There's not.
No, they're all standardized. This is the new board look here.
Standardized at 8 PM. I mean, the
It's tough,
traffic,
so.
dinner, 4 kids. I have 4 kids in 4 different places right now. Dinner. 6 o'clock could not be. There is not a worse time.
That could be your first.
Well, I mean, I don't know if anybody else has expressed that in any of the other board meetings.
Yeah, I have not heard that, but I certainly have not attended any either. I mean, I can mention it, but I don't think it is because that was part of the plan was to standardize everything.
Do you two prefer 6 because it's after your workday and they say you don't have to go and come back? Is that part of why it became 6?
I mean, I don't know. I wasn't asked for any input on the meeting time. To me, it does not work. It doesn't matter one way or the other. I mean. And I was concerned about people who have like, sport schedules that it might be
When
a
I say
problem.
I have 4 children and 4 different, I'm not exaggerating.
No, I believe you.
I only had
One at
one,
Jefferson, one at Bradfordton, one at the high school, one, yeah.
I only have one and he's nearly 30 and I think 6 is kind of a pain as well. And I work at home, so I mean, it's not a big deal for me, but I think it is for others.
I will accept the nomination with the knowledge that I will be trying to contact the other board people to go to whoever we need to go to try to change the time.
Yeah, I mean, I can mention it. And so just so we're talking about it, what's the ideal time?
I
if
would
it's
say,
not-
the sports advisory board meetings were at 8 PM. If that's too late for people, I would do 7:30, but like, it just clears through activities, dinner. That would be ideal. I don't know if anyone else.
7:30 is good.
7:30 is good,
Yeah, that's what I would recommend.
To me, it seems, I don't know how long these meetings are gonna last, but I'm old, I do go to bed early.
I do too.
You and me both.
And I like, I typically, again, I can only, and maybe they're gonna be
7.
longer, but they were typically like an hour, once things get going and get set up. Occasionally they'd be a little bit longer. Now, maybe they're longer because we're discussing like, it's sort of like 2 things combined into one.
It's possible.
But they're not gonna be more than like, tonight is very long because at the beginning,
Yeah, 6 is a problem for me just because I have to take care of my wife and
yeah,
she's not eating dinner tonight, so.
yeah. I haven't eaten I
Yeah.
made it, but I didn't get to eat
Yeah, I
it.
cooked it and then.
And then right at the door, see, so I'm not
It
allowed.
smelled like bacon, but I didn't eat.
My daughter actually finished it because I couldn't finish it, so yeah.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't matter at all. I mean, I'm coming to a meeting one time or another. I'm just, that's whatever.
If you could 7:30 and if you need me to reach out, and I'm happy to do the chair thing.
So we're gonna make a motion, but do we need to?
You start with the first motion, go back to the.
Wait, are we going for a motion for a meeting time change? Is
Yeah.
or
We do a
back to
chair.
Amanda? Okay, yeah, okay. I will pass on that 7:30 seems like the consensus of a better meeting time. I'm seeing most of you nodding. Anyone object to 7:30? All right, I'll go back to that. Bill, you don't get a vote.
But I mean, if there's a reason why it's 6, I'm all for it. It's just because we're trying to standardize some and someone threw it.
Well, part of it, I think, is room scheduling, like they have it all dialed for that. I'm sure part of it is for the IT support, just to keep them on a reasonable schedule, so, and I'm sure some staff like IT and maybe Phil as well, like if they live far away, you know, if it's 8 o'clock, they're gonna be sitting here from 5 to 8, because they're not gonna travel an hour, 45 minutes to home and then turn around and come back. I live in Mount Lebanon, I'm 10 minutes away. To me, it's nothing. I'm just gonna go home and eat and come back whenever I'm scheduled. So I think there are probably other factors involved in that. It's, so that's why I said initially, I don't think it's an option, but I'm certainly willing to pass it on.
I'm an is what it is, so if you guys say when the meeting is, I'll be
You're
here.
gonna have better attendance if you make it later. For all of them, I would imagine. I can't imagine this board is different than the makeup of the other boards.
Like the room thing could be the deal breaker. I don't know, but let me ask. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask, right? Okay, so going back, we had a nomination for Amanda Ross. There were no others, so all those in favor of Amanda Ross for chair, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Congratulations, Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda.
No.
Yeah, thank you and congratulations. Okay,
Co-chair? Don't you have to do a co-chair too?
yeah, I haven't done that yet. Vice chair. Next order of business.
Do it.
Are there any nominations for vice chair of the board? Your main job would be to fill in when Amanda's not here. So time change could be critical here. And really, it's just running the meeting in her absence. I mean, that's essentially the job.
Yeah, this room's laid out, so you're not copies, you know that though, you're not doing
Yeah,
stuff you see.
Yeah. No, yeah.
you just take over what I just did.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you could take it over right
Yeah,
now.
for now. Anybody? Come on. It's not that, and it's if hoping they can move the time. I have good attendance. These meetings.
She does have good attendance. I'll
Missed
vouch
one,
for that.
maybe 2 in my couple years I did it. so.
If it helps our relationship, we'd be happy to do it.
All right, I'll nominate Tom then. Go back and get him since he did it to me. Yeah, I do. Does anyone want?
Well, you don't need a second yet. You need
Yeah.
to know if there's other
No
nominations.
other nominations. Anyone else? People are jumping at the chance.
Just want to make sure.
Okay. So. Do we need a second on the motion for his nomination?
Or not,
Just go ahead.
not for the nomination, I don't believe.
Okay. So all in favor of Tom being the vice chair? Say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes. Next is pickleball.
Pickleball. So let me just say, it's in the SharePoint site, but you have a copy in front of you. If you're not aware, we recently constructed 6 pickleball courts at Meadowcroft Park, converting to tennis courts. It's been extremely successful, very popular, and until very recently, I received 0 complaints. But we did receive 6, and I've created that little spreadsheet just to, I guess, show the volume and nature of the complaints for you. And I was requested to put this on the Parks and Rec Board's agenda for discussion. So that's why it's before you this evening, just to summarize. It's primarily lights and noise. There were a couple complaints about parking. Not really much you can do about the parking side of things. And actually, one of the commenters on there was in favor of leaving the lights on past 9. Several were asking for them to be off at 9 or 30.
When do they turn on?
They go off at 10. That park by municipal code closes at 10. So that's when the lights go off. They're on a timer. So they,
And that's 7 days a week.
it's 7 days a week, yes. So there's been some discussions, well, could you change it during the school year and make it 9 and the summer is 10? There's lots of things that could be, considered for change. It's one of the most contested issues on any municipality's plate if they're talking about, if they have pickleball courts. I mean, there are arguments on both and people are very passionate.
Are they being used from 9 to 10 then, I assume, since people are complaining?
Yes, yeah.
I
They're pretty busy.
I drove by last night just to check it out, and it was full, people were waiting. I'm very empathetic to the people that live around there. I didn't hear any excessive noise or music, but I would be upset if I lived there, people were playing as late as 10 o'clock. I think 9 o'clock is very reasonable for a residential area like that.
And to be clear, we don't condone music at the courts. I mean, even among other pickleball players, I don't think anyone should assume that everyone else is, has the same music taste as you do.
In general, the noise of the ball hitting the paddle is a nuisance to people.
Yeah,
I didn't find it so excessive last night, but I don't live there, so.
yeah, that's generally the issue, is that noise on the paddle is, like nails on a chalkboard to some people.
Do we
And
know-
probably if you're living directly across.
Do we know that, do we collect the addresses of these people to know that they do in fact live across? Because they all came in around like plus or minus a day.
I
So-
believe they all do. I mean, that's something we could easily check, but I'm fairly certain that they all
Because you could.
live right there.
Can you change the time? If 10 o'clock is the ordinance, then
Well,
how do you change it? to
I
9?
think I don't think it would be necessary to change the hours of the park if you turn the lights off on that portion. That's something I'd want to talk to our solicitor about.
You could just program it for a different time.
We can sure do that, but then I guess the question is, well, since we say it's open till 10 and people expect it to be open till 10, is it now a safety hazard because you put them in darkness at 9 or 9:30? I mean, I don't know. That's something I would want to run past the
What was the
solicitor.
time limit for the pickleball courts?
10, always 10.
So the problem seems to be the noise, so not the lighting, but maybe, is there a noise ordinance?
Well, I should point out that the lights were changed when we rebuilt the courts, but that was when it was tennis. So say 2 years ago, roughly 2.5, there was new lighting put in. I don't think though that newer lighting would have any more light pollution than old lighting. Typically, it's less.
It has less.
We've had the contractor return to the site at least once to aim them better. So I do think that it's more the pickleball noise than the lights. I would agree.
It wasn't being.
But the lights would still be on.
The lights would be on, but the tennis courts weren't
You know,
being
the courts
used like
fit
they are.
down below the road, and that tends to contain the lights, so they don't go all over. It wasn't excessively bright. They weren't mercury vapor just lighting up the whole neighborhood, so I didn't see the lighting to be excessive.
How old's the lights, by the way?
Pardon me?
How old is that lighting system?
Oh, just replaced 2.5 years
So
ago.
the cutoff features and all that are up to
But
standard.
the difference is the courts are busy, unlike
Yeah.
It's the
the
people,
previous.
it's the use, yeah.
It's sound.
They're being-
Complaints are gonna triple when you cut pickleball hours by an hour.
Well, and that,
Yeah.
thank you. That's the other issue.
Yeah.
Like, we had
They're used to
complaints
playing it.
before we had pickleball courts, they were, why don't you have pickleball courts?
Mm-hmm.
And there were way more than,
That army's bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it is. So again, there's arguments on both sides.
You guys have complaints, we're only halfway through April, but have the same folks or different folks complained on into April?
We've had, as far as I know, these 6 in front of you are the complete set of complaints. And I don't think they've been repetitive, but I can't say. They went directly to their commissioner who shared them with staff, so.
Cause I mean, eventually you're not even gonna be dealing with the lights. They're gonna have enough daylight to play.
Till 9.
Yeah.
Even
Till
in the
after,
summer, till
yeah,
after,
till
I mean, they're gonna be able to
after,
play.
But then you'll have the noise, so it's.
Well, I'm saying that there's nothing there's nothing that the,
If the
Parks
park's
can
open till
do
10, it's open
if they have
till 10.
light, natural light, people can use the court.
And, you know, in parks, we can implement rules that aren't necessarily part of code or an ordinance. You know, like we have, there's posted rules for use of the courts right now. A posted rule could say they close at 9, and then that would have to be enforced, but you know, Andy's right, they could play as long as there's daylight if they want to.
David, from an administrative standpoint, as we look at this group forming and kind of moving forward, and I look at that as either being informed of this, or being asked to advise, or are we consulting on the question on this? I guess because there's policy or there's code in the township that says the lights are staying until 10, what would be expected of us, of this group, to provide back? Because we're not gonna change the code, we're not gonna, I mean, is it we influencing feedback, or how do we manage these types of concerns moving into the future, be it someone in a park at night or somebody using something beyond 10 o'clock? Is it just informing us of this, or are you looking for some type of feedback?
I think the commission is looking for feedback on this issue, so I wouldn't worry about the how, just what it should be, you know, we believe it should be off at 8:30, I don't know. Whatever it is you think makes sense, and then we'll worry about how it happens, if it happens. You know, it's completely advisory.
I would suggest we just kind of continue to monitor it. If next month there's more complaints, then we maybe, I mean, to me, a compromise would be you turn them off at 9, Sunday through Thursday, or, Sunday, Tuesday, give them a couple nights where it's off at 9 to try to appease the neighbors. But I think the point made of there's far more people playing pickleball than there are neighbors surrounding that area.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
the complaints will double or
It's a
triple.
growing growth sport.
Yeah.
It's massively growing, and these people probably moved in there before all that. So they're like, hey, I moved in here. This wasn't here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change anything. I do feel sorry for them if there's loud music.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Cussing, or
there,
bad language, or people like screaming, or like oral arguments. Hey, that was in, that was out. I mean, is there signs posted on like, here's the decorum, here's what's expected of play?
Yeah, there's, one of the rules is about, being courteous and things like that. I don't remember what it specifically is. And there's also
Add one for music.
some in the code that says there's abusive language, things like that's not permitted. Well, I'm sorry. I mean,
Say the music, I think we could recommend adding a line to the rules of
yeah, and I'm kind of,
not to bring your own portable
Yeah.
speaker.
I would do that, I think, right out of the box, but we purposely made that sign pretty temporary because I knew we were gonna learn and wanna add.
Right.
So I don't wanna do that like tomorrow,
Sure.
but it's definitely on the list of things to add. And if we end up changing the time for lights, then I gotta change that too.
Right.
So I did purposely make our sign pretty cheap. It's on plastic core. So we can make changes without great expense, but I'd kind of like to do it collect them up and then do it in one shot, or, very infrequently if possible.
yeah, I mean, I think you have to wait and see through fall, because like I said, your lights are not gonna determine anything. People are gonna be out there playing.
And their complaints might go up in the
So
summer.
then you're
because the
changing
heat's
a-
Gonna go up.
Then you have to change a
which
Yeah.
is a lot harder.
We were
The
open.
majority of those days, it was cold with that. So warmer weather, so they'll get it.
We were open last summer, but, you know, word probably hadn't spread. It wasn't quite as busy. We're now, I mean, these are some of the best pickleball courts around now.
Are there other courts, pickleball courts in Mount Lebanon?
The only pickleball courts, if you can even call them that, are at Williamsburg, and we just put temporary striping on a tennis court. There's one on each side. And then there's one that are perpendicular or parallel to the net, and then the one in the center perpendicular to the net, you can actually use the tennis net. The ones on the side have no nets, and they were just if people wanted to bring portable. In the meantime, someone donated nets and they're kind of there all the time. So yes, I guess, yeah, they're technically, you could play at Williamsburg also, but it's a very residential setting. There's homes within 75 feet of the court, so it's a similar situation, but they're not lit. That's the big difference. And there's only 2 at a time max versus 6. So I kind of thought Meadowcroft would be less noise complaints because they're on the opposite side of a pretty busy street.
They're used to the school and.
Yeah, there's a lot of noise and activity there already. There's 2 ball fields right there where there can be a lot of noise. But I think the issue is that this is more constant in nature, and it's that unusual noise that can drive people crazy.
Yeah.
So it's, and they're specifically calling that out rather than the music, or?
The music was called out too, which is why I wanted to kind of map this out, just so you can see the universe of complaints. I think the music, I actually reached out to the Facebook group and they posted it. I mean, I think we're getting support from the pickleball community to not have music. So I hope they're kind of policing each other. You know, they're not, they can't do anything, well, they can't do much about the noise. I mean, there's noise reducing paddles and balls, but I'd say very few people own them. And I don't know how effective they are. I've not really researched it or looked into it. This is a universal issue in municipalities everywhere that have pickleball.
There's no question it's successful. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
it could be better, so.
What are they doing? What are some of the solutions that they've?
There are sound barriers that exist, everything from acoustic walls to sort of curtains, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I don't know how effective those are either.
Put it on the fence.
Yeah, like windscreen only, heavier, thicker, that has some acoustic sound absorbing qualities. No idea if that would be effective. It is lower, as you pointed out. Is it just gonna carry straight over and then be at their level anyway? I mean, I have no idea. I don't know costs.
The solution is to open up more pickleball courts in part of the tennis center and then people go there and
Don't
less people go to Meadowcroft.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a very
that's
real
fine.
possibility.
Yeah.
It is recommended in that main park study, and I think it could happen. I mean, I think it has some support. I can't say for sure.
It's a
but-
long-term solution, but that, I mean, if you added more courts somewhere else, they would lessen the.
Yeah,
No one wants to wait in line and be hanging out, waiting to
Yeah.
play in different places.
I know the rec department would like to see it at the tennis center, and I think the tennis
But it's a
community, at
true
least the
racket
folks that I've talked to are, yes, exactly. That's the goal, is to become more of a racket center, so.
Old tennis.
The people I've spoken to that are tennis players are supportive, but I'm sure there would be tennis players who are not supportive of that as well, but we'll cross that bridge later. But I hope it happens at the tennis center. But Amanda, I don't know if that would reduce the problem. I mean, I think
It's that big of a use.
it's such a popular sport and it's growing so fast. I feel like you're gonna fill every court you build. As long as the weather's good, I think you're gonna put people on the court.
I think it's a good thing. We're probably attracting folks from Vermont and Baldwin and other.
Guaranteed, there are people coming from other communities. There's no doubt. I mean, I've been there. I play there a little bit, not much, but a little. And I've met people from other communities, so I know it's happening. And sometimes it's a good thing, because if there's only two people from Mount Lebanon and they wanna play doubles, they need some other folks. So sometimes it's great. When it's busy, it's not the best, but, it happens everywhere. I'm sure, Mount Lebanon folks are traveling to Brookline too, or, wherever.
Well, are we good with just waiting a month to see if the complaints keep monitoring them and
I mean, I think
adding
that's
the
a
music to your
reasonable
list, to your
response.
sign, for when you redo your sign?
David, is there any formal response to these individuals that their comments have been heard and that it's being addressed? Or is it,
The commissioner would have done.
This will be reflected in the minutes. We'll report back to the commissioner, with the sort of consensus here tonight. And I would imagine he would get back to them personally. If not, I mean, I'm happy to do it, which is one of the reasons why I collected email addresses.
Yeah.
I just want to kind of keep track of this in some organized way so we know what we're dealing with here. So yeah, we can make sure that happens. And so I think what I'm hearing is we want to monitor it and not really do much at this point or do anything at this point.
Other than, I think, add the music to your list.
Add the music to the list when we update the sign next.
And I think if you reached out to the Facebook group and said, internally, they can work on that, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah, they've already posted it. I've seen it. And I think people were supportive. We had one person call the office who was playing the music and she wasn't happy with that post, but again, I just don't think in any setting you can think that
You just have-
everyone else wants to listen to your music.
Especially the neighbors.
It's not part of the game. You don't need to.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we, like, for example, we don't allow that at the swimming pool. We wouldn't allow that at the tennis center. If you want to listen to music, you have to use headphones and then only you can hear the music.
Yeah. It's a
Um,
simple solution.
It is. I think it's just logical and that's absolutely going on the sign, the next version of that we put out. But I do want to wait a little bit to see if there's any changes to times and lights and those kinds of things before I run out and produce a new sign.
do they put restrictions on time? Is it an hour or, is there?
Yes, well, depending on the time of day, there's actually, these rules are all on our website. If you wanted to go to our parks page, Meadowcroft Park, all the pickleball rules as written are right there. So yeah, there's a time limit, but it's not really a time limit, it's a point limit. So we play to 11, not win by 2, and then the next group rotates on. So there's constant turnover, so even if there's a big line, you're not waiting long because there's a group or more rotating off and the next group rotating
And
on.
people will play and then just get back in line to play again.
Yeah, there's a rack, you put your paddle in the system and it's like a
Oh,
clock.
that's fun.
Yeah, it works great. I don't know, hopefully we can get past some of these other issues, because I think it's really been just a great popular facility. People love it. People are having a great time.
When were those courts installed?
Last summer they were open. I don't remember the exact date, but almost a year.
So,
Yeah.
just starting to hear some.
First time we're hearing it is within the last 3-4 weeks.
The tennis courts are for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they were very rarely used at night. I think.
People play in colder weather?
Pickleball?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
Oh,
more like
yeah.
paddle that you kind of can play. If there's not snow on the ground, you can bundle up and play.
What I've kind of seen is something around 40 degrees seems to be the tipping point where people don't like to play pickleball, but that's just, anecdotal, personal, what I've noticed, but.
Do we want to say, I don't know, we need a motion that it's the consensus of the board that music, amplified music should be prohibited or?
I mean, I think that is the consensus and it's certainly,
Presume to speak for everybody else,
Yeah.
but it sounds like
it's certainly my recommendation that we don't allow that. I mean, again, we wouldn't do that at other facilities. We wouldn't want to do it there. It's just not like other, it's rarely a problem in other parks. Occasionally at the ball fields, we'll play music that's the residents object to, and they're really not supposed to. So we address that as it happens. That is part of the rules when people rent the turf, for example. You're supposed to get approval to use the PA system, whether it be for announcing games or playing music or whatever. And we try to limit that to just big, tournament games, you know, special, events, not every practice you'd want to play warm. So it's typically not done in rec facilities.
I think we can just go with that. If anybody has something else they feel, just speak up. All right, we'll just move on then. The announcement, the next board meeting is at Wednesday, May 15th. And it's at 6 p.m. for now. If that changes, we will let you know, because it has to be posted, I'm sure. Anyone who's not able to attend in person can attend via Zoom. So, last but not least, we can adjourn.
Well, just real quick, I know.
Is there I should have asked if there's any
Yeah,
other new
well, we all
business.
want to go home, except it looks nasty out.
Yeah.
So let's meet more.
My umbrella is about 100 yards in the parking garage. But do we want to do some homework, or how should we start thinking about prioritizing the CIP list?
I think, and in the past, we will take what we recommended last year, and then David kind of takes off what was done or what was approved, right? And then we start with like a sort of a rough draft of a list at the next meeting. And that meeting will kind of discuss the different topics and move things up or down the list from the previous year, and then and that's an opportunity to add things as well to the list.
Yeah,
So we start with a working document.
Merge with the two, merge the two.
Yeah, I think we'll merge. So for homework, the CIP, the current 5-year CIP is on the website, so you can look at that. It's all organized by sort of department. There's rec, there's parks, which is really public works, which is one of the things I wanted to mention earlier, is just so everybody knows. Parks are maintained by Public Works. They are programmed by Recreation, so if it's a maintenance issue or something like that, Phil's gonna be your guy. If it's a program issue, I'll be the person you wanna talk to. Just throwing that out. But, so back to the homework, CIP's on the website under public documents. In the SharePoint site, there's folders. Sports Advisory Board has the latest prioritization in there, and I'm pretty sure Parks does as well.
Parks is as well.
So we can meld those two together. I mean,
Are they gonna wanna see it together? I know we are
They
now one
should.
board, you think, so, but then are we gonna, and here's what I wanna avoid. I wanna avoid fighting over whatever Parks number one thing was, is that higher or lower than what sports number one thing was, like. Can we
Like-
do sort of parks and recreation separate?
what I remember from last year was the commission wanted a single list that had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, in order, not segmented in any way.
They didn't like our segments.
Now, I'll ask Craig, how about that? I will ask Craig, do we want a single list, or can we have 2 categories, 1 rec, 1 parks? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Capturing that. So yeah, I mean, to me, it matters not. I think either, it's whatever works for the commission is what it's gonna boil down to.
And then at some point, do we take sort of the ongoing business of the two boards and put them, well, we don't have old business tonight, but there was, I assume, old business for both boards. Do we put that kind of on the discussion?
I mean, we could, sure. One thing, like, I think that was in Ian's presentation that, I think is in the, documents that we were given too, is sort of a work plan. That is probably something that we would want to start with early so that we can have direction for the board, like what are the priorities, what's the work plan for the year gonna look like? And then that would be sort of the guiding light to however things are organized and how things are prioritized. But that, the CIP or the project prioritization is something that's gonna have to start
I
right
was
away.
gonna say, maybe next time we start with like a draft of the work plan and the CIP things, and that's enough to
Yeah.
kind of tackle the next meeting, because
Yeah,
some of those conversations are long.
the CIP is gonna be on the work plan no matter what, because that's part of the commission's priorities. We know that's there. I mean, there's probably going to be things that will be in line with the comprehensive plan, the Parks Master Plan. I mean, I think this work plan is gonna kind of write itself. But, you know, we can certainly go back to the old work plans and the unfinished business. You know, I know like one thing was the sign project, and that's gonna kind of, at least the step one of that is coming to fruition here very soon. So then are you gonna want to build on that, or, you know, whatever it
Yeah, the
is?
one thing that came to mind for me as an example, just to kind of rebuild the structure of the conversation. At one time, the roof at the rec center was something that was on our docket. That really wasn't, I mean, that wasn't an influence, that wasn't like really a board influenced decision that needed to be done. And so they wanted us to prioritize that in terms of, and that's gonna get done anyways. So I think I guess my take on this is, if it's a capital improvement, or if it's the ice rink chiller, are we influencing it? Are we saying, hey, this is something that needs to get done? And I think the roof is $1 million, and that was way outside of our scope, way outside of the budget. Do we support it? Yes. But it really wasn't something that we said we didn't want to prioritize, it wasn't gonna get done.
I mean, I could ask Craig also, do you want infrastructure type things prioritized? I mean, because that's really, it's what's the commission's desire here? Because, you know, as the guy who's in the building with the leaky roof, I would say, yes, I want you to advocate for my roof. I need a roof here. We're trying to protect our assets, but
But as an example, back to the stands, that's never, like, the stands have never been discussed as a need, but it's been funded, which is great, but it was never brought, like, it was never identified,
It
so.
was on our list. It was, I think it was on the list when we came to returfing the fields. It was kind of like,
Correct, yeah.
let's see.
it was.
Returf the fields, put the lights on, fix
The
the.
stand.
fix the stand.
Add spectator, add fix accessibility, all those things.
I'm
are
thrilled,
part-
because now we can take it off our list, because they're
Correct.
already doing it.
Well, the bleachers, but we still want better spectator areas at the turf once we
When we redesign.
re-turf and do lights and all those other things.
Which was a master plan driver for the bleachers that you see now, your restroom floors appearance. I mean, those are things that as my position just says.
Maybe
these
it's
are
just
gonna bring-
defining of what is the mission and what's the influence that we can have over certain things.
And that fell into operating anyway.
Right.
That was Public Works Parks operating level. And it was just thrown in there. It does, just because it was 7th out of 10, doesn't mean anything. The manager goes through there and says, let's knock this off, this off. So the more information we provide.
Low-hanging fruit, that's-
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Phil and I will always have a project list separate from this board's. I mean, we are in our facilities every day. We're gonna advocate for things that need to get done. So we're not waiting for a list.
Sure.
So it's kind of really between you and the commission. What does the commission desire and what does this board want to advocate for? And go for it. I mean, we will always have our own list and our own priorities that we will advocate for.
Yeah. One of the things we'll probably talk about the next month or over the year is, what's the relationship, or how do we balance between advocating for current asset management, renewal, replacement, stuff that's gotta get done, or stuff that ought to get done before it has to get done, versus, new facilities and
Kind of like new projects versus maintaining what we have.
yeah,
And that was in the sort of the Parks Master Plan, that were like big chunks of both.
exactly.
And that was one of the things I think the feedback was, that's maintaining what we have is a priority for the community.
Yeah.
All right, so everybody can kind of look at and I think as part of the packet coming into the meeting the next time, there'll be some things to look at, a kind of a draft of both things that we'll start with that would definitely be helpful to look at before we start the meeting.
Yeah, and there's probably going to be 75 projects between the two. And maybe we want to start with the highest priority items. I mean, I don't know that it's going to be practical to go through a punch list of 75 or 100 projects that will never see the light of day in the next budget cycle or the next 5-year budget cycle. So I mean, if you would like, Bill and I could probably take a crack at combining the last two lists for you to look at, and then by all means, as we've always done, you can add and reorder whatever the board sees
So
fit.
that would be helpful.
Okay.
It definitely makes things.
We'll try to do that. We'll try to do that.
Because one of the things that confused me last year, and I was only on the PAB 1 year to replace somebody currently, is balancing or knowing how to handle a project that may be $100,000 this year, but you know, it's $1 million or whatever, $500,000 project that would go over 5 budget cycles. And so does that, am I looking at $500,000 or am I looking at $100,000 and how do we
Yeah.
account for that?
And so are you Tom, are you the only person that was on the Parks Board from before?
Yeah.
Okay, so at least we have voices from both boards to know like what some of the history is.
I didn't realize that.
All right, so then I think we're ready to adjourn then. Is that fair?
You did your announcement already, right?
Yeah, I did the announcement of the next meeting. We can adjourn at 8:04. Trying to run through the rain, I guess. God, we got a good spot.